remember to continue to interact with me on our Facebook page. I'm back here with John ELIAKIM. I pronounced it right.
Yes, you did.
And we've been discussing all things youth and leadership, and it's been a very candid and interesting conversation that we've been having here. And I want to now shift it over to the middle class. You know, first of all, it's already a challenge just being able to define the middle class. I've come across very many different definitions, very many different ideas of what actually constitutes the middle class of our Kenyan society. But in terms of, for you, what are the statistics saying in terms of the definition of our middle class?
Basically, according to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, they define the middle class as households that spend between 24,000 to 120,000 per month. That's basically the definition of the middle class in this particular country, but the World Bank has a different definition, and of course other bodies have different definition of what the middle class actually constitutes.
And in terms of the population of the middle class in Kenya right now, what's the population?
We can't really square out the number of people actually in the middle class. Maybe put it in terms of the percentage. That, for instance, the World Bank actually tries to say that 47% of Kenya's population is literally within that particular portion of society, the middle class. So that is still being, it's a bit controversial. That's quite a high number.
7%.
Yes, indeed.
And also considering the fact that people view Kenya as a poverty-stricken, you know, country, where 47% of the population actually being middle class, I am quite surprised to hear this statistic.
That basically came about after the government basically changed the way we calculate our GDP, because right now Kenya is actually considered to be a middle income country. So of course various aspects actually changed in terms of how do you consider the middle class, how do you consider the high class, and how do you consider people or other households that are living in the lower class levels.
And the middle class, is it growing?
Yes, indeed, it is growing. Why am I saying this? Remember I mentioned that the World Bank has said that Kenya's middle class is actually 47% of the entire population. We need to ask ourselves, why did we have the GS Summit in this country? Yeah? Why are so many investors actually taking charge of Kenya? We are seeing, so many buildings coming up. We are seeing infrastructure coming up, and we are seeing very many investors coming to the country because they can see the potential of the country. And if there is something that drives the market of any economy, it's the middle class. So actually, that's why we have so many people coming into the country, because they can see there is a market for their products and their services.
And you just highlighted a little bit, and you said, in terms of the role and the importance of the middle class, what role is it that the middle class plays in terms of, the stability and governance in our country?
I would like to borrow a leaf from the Asian tigers, the Hong Kongs, the Taiwans, the Singapores, the South Koreas. In the 60s, our GDPs, the GDPs of the Asian tigers in Kenya, we literally used to be at par.
Yes. But
right now we can't really say we can compete globally. Why is this so? Because at the time the middle class took upon themselves in terms of getting hold of the leadership of the country, because this is a class that is composed of very educated people, intellectuals for that matter. This is a class that is economically empowered. So if they actually choose to take it upon themselves in terms of the leadership of the country, setting the agenda in terms of what issues are supposed to be addressed, what issues are supposed to be to be taken in consideration of the government in session, I think literally the government is going to move forward. So in this particular instance, for instance in Kenya, that's why we are here, because our middle class, I have no apology saying this, it's a bit pathetic in terms of the middle class, and we need to do something about it if we really want to experience any kind of change in this country.
Okay.
I know.
You just said that it's a little bit pathetic.
Yes, it is.
What is pathetic?
When I try to observe some things that happen casually, that just because you're in the middle class and you feel the public school is not performing well, and you feel that if you take your kid to that particular public school, is not going to gain, which is ideally true, you ship them to a private school. Instead of actually raising the matter and actually telling the government or relevant stakeholders, can we do something about the education sector? It's a bit disappointing. And I have so many examples, but there is one that really stands out. Twitter is a very good platform to interact. But this is where we have most of our middle class, where they engage in very intellectual conversation, intellectual in quote.
Why do you say in quotes?
Yeah, in quotes, because ideally, they're actually very intellectual talks. They are very exciting, but they're just exciting for the moment. But ideally, whatever action they actually portray in writing, behind their phones, behind their very smart iPads, does not really translate to actionable action on the ground. So it's a bit disappointing for this country, and that's why we have such a long way to go before you can actually get to a level whereby Singapore and the Asian tigers are.
Okay, you've just sparked two questions in my mind right now. Let me ask the first question. The first question being, you've talked about Singapore, Malaysia, all of these other Asian countries, which were actually on the same level during the 1960s with Kenya in terms of our economies. And looking now, we can't even compare the two. And rumor has it that they actually literally took our blueprints, in terms of development. And the only difference between the two is actually that they implemented it and made it work versus us guys who are very good at planning. But implementation is always the issue. What is it that is different about the two, nations where they were actually able to rise above quicker than for us? What is holding us back?
That is a very good question, Maya. Let me not even look at Kenya. Let me look at the African continent, for instance. And I'm going to say this very categorically, that the problem of Africa lies squarely in its leadership. Yeah. What are the kinds of leaders that we have? And let me just hint. We talk of Zimbabwe. Yeah. Talk of. Let's not get very controversial, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say. Yeah, that ideally our leaders have let us down. We live in a country whereby tribalism is the order of the day, corruption is the order of the day, nepotism is the order of the day. Even back in my home county where I want to go and vie for leadership position, it's in a mess. It's actually very frustrating. So, for these particular countries in the east that we are giving a case in point, their leaders actually took a very good stand. Yeah, these are leaders who, once they came into leadership positions, they came there with an objective that indeed they want to raise the standards of living of their people. They want to develop the economies. It's not a matter of pursuing their selfish interests, and that's why they are where they are today. Unfortunately for our country, for a very dear country, we can't say the same. Somebody is actually trying to tell me we're in middle-life crisis. So I think when somebody is in middle-life crisis, you expect so many things to be happening. I think that's where we are right now, but I'm sure things are going to get better eventually.
That's really interesting that you say that, because it's true, we are, a nation that's very young in terms of our independence, around our 50s, which happens to be, the midlife crisis age.
Yeah.
But then also now the question that I had for you is that you had voiced out some of your frustrations that you're seeing with the middle class and how they're not participating and taking charge in terms of governance in our country. And the question that I have for you, because even when you look at our voting behavior, look at our voting statistics, a lot of the voters that show up are actually from our lower class, and a very small portion of our middle class are not taking part of these political processes. I think you also had an example for that you had shared with me earlier, which of course you'll share here with us now. But the question I have is then, why are we so silent as the middle class? Why are we so lax as the middle class?
Remember, I used the word pathetic. I have to use it again. We have a middle class that tends to be lazy. That is the word I'm going to use. You really you are not concerned about what is happening beyond your job, beyond where you live. So long as you have your newspaper and you have your TV, you're good to go. It's literally about me, myself, and I. If you want this country to move forward, you need to change that mentality. So it's a mentality that has to be changed. Yeah, and it's not something that can happen overnight. It's a gradual process. Let's start it with the education system. Let us start basically teaching our young men and women that they need to be more entrepreneurial. Let's not just think about getting employed. Yeah, because from that particular aspect is actually when you realize the benefit of actually taking part in an election, for instance, because you realize any decision you make in terms of the market it literally goes down to the leadership that is in power that particular. So if you really don't take part in maybe bringing leaders in power, so you basically have no right to complain when something goes wrong. So let us change the mentality of the middle class. Let it start with the education. Then for those who are already done in school, let us have a lot of public awareness. Let us change this mentality that is, we are having with Kenyans around, that it actually has to change for us to basically experience a good country, maybe not necessarily now, but even in future.
But is it that we're also silent, the middle class is also silent because they've lost hope for our country. They've lost, just in terms of looking at the integrity of our governance, that they actually feel that there's no use to contribute.
That is interesting, Maya, because if the middle class loses hope, that's the end of this country. Because I can assure you the rich do not have our interests at heart. The poor people on the ground literally have no say. So literally it's the middle class that can actually get this country out of this quagmire that we are in. So ideally, I don't buy the idea that the middle class is literally maybe, like they are tired or they feel hopeless. I don't think that is the case.
You just think they're lazy?
Yes, ideally, actually they have not started working on anything. So the idea of them literally saying that maybe they feel hopeless and yet you've not even started addressing any particular matter, I don't think that's the case. Maybe the aspect actually is how they're actually doing it. There's this particular activist.
I'm just actually thinking of it in terms of even just looking at our systems,
Yes.
right? I know a number of people who I'm not even going to mention names are registered voters but will not go and vote because they just think about that long line that they're going to stand
and
in.
the sun.
And the sun. And
Yes.
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying then, do you think it's part of it is also just the fact that our systems are not as efficient enough for us to be able to actually, participate.
Well, let us not clearly throw the blame on the middle class. Of course, there are particular aspects. Indeed, maybe they feel that there is really no point in even voting. But you see, you need to have a starting point. Yeah, that's why I'm saying we cannot really start complaining that indeed the leadership is not delivering a particular service, and yet you didn't vote, you didn't do anything in that particular aspect. So in terms of the middle class, let's really start, wake up from our slumber because we're literally sleeping. Let's get away from the tweeting business. And just before you came into my, I was sharing this particular activist. Is very controversial. It's called Boniface. And there's a time actually organized a very good demonstration on the middle class. He basically defined them as people who are literally lazy and that they needed to wake up for us to realize change in this country. You see, at least for somebody like Boniface, controversial or not, is actually doing something about it, and maybe it had an impact on a few people because there was something actionable actually took place on the ground. Instead of just engaging in a lot of blogging and tweeting, it does not help anybody.
Yes. It's interesting that you said that because I even remember during the break what you were telling me is that sometimes even in terms of our supporters and in the last elections that we had a great number of presidential candidates who had a great following. They actually had a lot of supporters, but what actually let them down is that these were not registered voters.
Exactly.
These were not people that went and actually voted them in. And this and what are your comments to that?
At times I wish we could maybe Twitter could be a place whereby we could actually vote, because I can assure you, for some of the presidential candidates, they might have won the election, but unfortunately that is a bit too sad. It couldn't happen. So my point is this: can we maybe have the kind of middle class that literally wakes up from this thing I'm calling slumber? That's why I'm saying I'm actually a bit pathetic. It's a bit pathetic in such a situation. It's not right. Let's have the kind of that actually wakes up, goes and registers as voters. It all boils down to the leadership again. Let them go register as voters. Let them come in and so that at the end of the day they can actually come and claim that indeed we voted you in, you did not deliver on what you actually promised. So now we have the right to complain, we have the right to demand for a service, But as it stands right now, if you just sit at home during elections, you're feeling the sun and the mid-morning cold, I don't think that's proper.
All right, and unfortunately we've come to the end of today's discussion and time here on the show, but I want to say thank you so much for coming to the show. Before we end, just a quick concluding thought. Then what should we do to ensure that we get our middle class active and involved in these political processes?
Very good question, Maya. I know I might have addressed maybe some part of the solution, but let us again go down back to the education system in this country. We need to revamp it a bit, because ideally the reason as why we are having the kind of middle class we are having in this country is ideally because of the education system we are having. Let's have a more interactive education system. A system whereby it's not necessarily about me, myself and I. You are living with a neighbor, you are living in a community, in a society, in a country that requires each and every individual to actually play their role in a particular way. So the aspect of just sitting back and waiting to complain when things go wrong and then you don't take charge when you're actually required to, it should actually change. So ideally, let's start with the education system at most. That is the main concern I have about.
All right, thank you so much for your thoughts. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and your opinions. And also I'd like to wish you all the best as you are aspiring to be an MP.
Thank you.
And just a very curious question here. Why not vie for a seat in 2017? Why wait for 2022?
I like that question. I've been asked by so many people. I get excited about such a question.
Yes.
Reason is this. In 2022, the political climate will have shifted. The reason actually as to why I'm very passionate about women empowerment is that women tend to be more issue-oriented. They tend to pay more attention to detail. So I'm very positive that by 2022, the political environment will have shifted because you're going to have more women on board. In 2017, it's going to be more or less the same thing. We are seeing tribal aspects, ethnicity, which won't really be good for the kind of things I would like to address in my constituency. Number two, I'm actually in the process of organizing a very good tournament back in my constituency, because I also need the people to actually tell me, now it's your time, you can come and vie. I also need to give myself time. I need to make myself known back in the constituency so that it reaches the level where in 2022 I'll have marshaled up a good number of people. I'll have assisted them in a particular way, in something sustainable. And then of course, remember I mentioned that for you to vie for a leadership position, you need to have a lot of money, not necessarily money to waste, but actually you need some certain level of resources. So that's why I'm basically giving myself time, so that by 2022 everything will be in place. I would have loved to buy in 2017, but because of the reasons I've actually been able to highlight, I've mentioned let me actually work with the people more, and then in 2022 I'll go for it.
I like that, and it sums up and wraps up what we've been conversing on throughout this hour, in that some leadership qualities that are really important is also being able to tell timing, being able to plan yourself well, being able to know when the right time is to make certain moves. I think sometimes that is where we go wrong, is that we are so hungry and ready for it that we, strategically, our timing is quite off.
Yes.
So thank you for that, thank you for sharing, and all the best.
Thank you so much, Maya.
For all the aspiring young leaders that were watching today, I hope today's show inspired and moved you to greater heights and clearer vision. I would like to leave you all with a quote I love about leadership. The quote reads, "Great leaders don't set out to be a leader, they set out to make a difference." It's never really about the role, but it's always about the goal. That's what it's about, people. It's about making a difference. That's it for tonight's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember to like my Facebook page, Politically Correct Kenya, and tweet at us at PCorrectK is where you can find us. Remember that you can also catch on all our missed episodes on our YouTube channel. Just subscribe to TVC Kenya and go to our Politically Correct playlist. Good night to all my leading champions. Much love to you all, and see you guys next time.